All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Roman Miller. Today is July 3rd, 2026, and this is your updated briefing looking ahead at the holiday weekend. So, right now, as of 10 a.m., temperatures are already into the 90s in several areas across the local area, such as Richmond, where it's 90 over 75 now. We're getting up into the upper 80s already down in southeastern Virginia, and then the Eastern Shore. We already have some lower 90s with some high dew points as well out there. And when we factor in the humidity, it currently feels like already above 100 degrees in many locations across the area, with the Eastern Shore already experiencing above 105 on average heat indices across the entire portion of the Eastern Shore. And then again, getting up towards and even exceeding 100 in places already as of 10 a.m. in central and eastern portions of the state of Virginia. So, looking ahead, we have made only minor changes to the forecast at this point. The main changes being to extend the extreme heat warnings into northeastern North Carolina today through Saturday, as well as adding a heat advisory for the Maryland beaches and the Outer Banks Currituck. So I'm going to skip this slide. And before I jump into that, I will just throw out a reminder that our radar is out of service for the next several days at least. So keep that in mind. We do have other ways to monitor weather using other nearby radars and satellite. So we will still be keeping an eye on everything if there is severe weather. And just doing a quick overview of the overall pattern over the next several days. With the ridge in place, it remains very hot, and high pressure kind of settles in overhead, especially today, and then kind of weakens as that ridge begins to break down later this weekend into early next week, allowing for a more unsettled pattern to begin. Now, before I talk about the heat anymore, I'm going to quickly talk about the severe side of things. So for today's severe potential, it's still just a marginal across the northern portions of the area, and that's going to be for a few wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour, maybe locally higher in spots. There's definitely a lot of uncertainty that remains regarding whether or not storms even form today. Models still show quite a bit of disagreement with how much activity actually occurs, and when we're under these ridges, it tends to act to suppress storms. So that kind of works against all the moisture and fuel for the storms, and they kind of battle out. And so because of that, it's a little bit unclear whether or not we'll even get convection at all. But if we do, the best chance still looks like it's going to be in the Piedmont, mainly along and west of 95. And that would probably be later this afternoon, tapering off this evening. So again, only low confidence for storms, but storms probably, given this type of setup, won't form until later in the afternoon. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow for 4th of July, we have seen the slight risk expanded across even further south into the area, and now it includes most of Virginia and the Maryland Eastern Shore. The only areas it really doesn't quite include is the far southeastern portion of Virginia and northeastern North Carolina, where generally a marginal is in place. A little bit more uncertain if storms will make it that far southeast. But confidence is increasing in severe weather on Saturday across much of the region, with confidence now up to moderate for storm timing, intensity, and coverage. Right now, we are expecting wind gusts of 60 miles an hour, even stronger. It is possible that some storms may even approach 70 miles an hour or stronger, depending on how everything ends up playing out tomorrow. So we are keeping a very close eye with everyone being outdoors and all the celebrations out there on exactly how this situation develops. One thing I will note with the storm motion is that it's going to be a little bit uncertain with exactly where these storms will move, given that storms are not going to be moving very fast. So some storms may be moving to the northeast while some move to the southeast. Generally, it's one of those summer days where you get pop-up storms and they form, throw out an outflow boundary, and other storms pop up, and you just get an increase in storm coverage, but a little bit chaotic storm motions. So it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what the main direction will be for those storms. But given how hot and humid it's going to be, we do think that there is some potential for some strong wind gusts as well as frequent lightning. And the timing has also moved a little bit earlier. Now the timing starts at 2 p.m. on Saturday, with a lot of models now showing convection starting again earlier in the afternoon than initially anticipated. Let me see if I can pull up here just a quick example of a few different models that we have. So similar to what I did yesterday, I'm going to show today. The models still have a few pop-up storms in the Piedmont, but generally are a little bit uncertain how much we're going to get. But then looking ahead into Saturday, let me go to this model. Storms potentially popping up. This is in 18Z is really 2 p.m. local time. So we have storms popping up in the afternoon and then quickly becoming more widespread later in the afternoon. This is at 4 p.m. And then here we are at 6 p.m. on Saturday and then 8 p.m. So that's just one model, one possibility for what could occur tomorrow. Here's another one, but it has a similar idea. The exact, again, storm motions are a little bit uncertain, but the general idea is that coverage should increase in storms through the afternoon into the evening. And then here's just one more similar situation. This is at 4 p.m. on Saturday, 6 p.m., 8 p.m. So we are seeing an increase in models showing storms on Saturday afternoon and evening. So we do want everyone to be aware of that and the increased storm potential area-wide, really. And we do still have a storm threat on Sunday as well, with a slight risk further to the north and a marginal further to the south. Sunday's a little bit more uncertain. We're not quite sure exactly how much storm coverage there's going to be, especially if Saturday ends up seeing a lot of storms where you kind of overturn that environment and you don't get as much instability on Sunday. But that being said, we still are under a severe risk on Sunday. Now, regarding the heat, before I go into headlines, I'm just going to show this, which is a look at all of our high resolution models and the probability of exceeding heat indices above 110. So 110 or higher. And for today, you can see the chance for heat indices above 110 pretty high across the area. Most areas seeing 70 to 80+% chances of those heat indices above 110. And then if I go ahead into Saturday, we can see that it's a little bit lower, but still quite high across the area, 40 to 50% across the eastern shore, and then 50 to 70% across much of the rest of the area away from the immediate coastline. So given this, and given the confidence that we have now seeing these probabilities out there, we have gone ahead and expanded and extended the extreme heat warnings to now include almost the entire forecast area for today and Saturday, with the only exception being the Currituck Outer Banks and the Maryland beaches, where a little bit of an onshore flow could allow for a little bit cooler temperatures, but still very humid conditions. So we have heat advisories for those locations. Everywhere else, extreme heat warnings. And it just is going to continue from today through Saturday. And then looking ahead at our heat risk over the next 5 days, you can see today and tomorrow, we have that significant and extreme widespread across our area. And then as we head into Sunday, it's still going to be hot and humid out there. And we still are looking at very likely having some sort of heat-related headlines, whether it be an advisory or a warning. We're still not quite sure yet. It'll kind of depend on how Saturday plays out with how much storms we get and if that really overturns our air mass or not. But either way, it's going to continue to be hot and humid with elevated to significant heat threat for Sunday, and then even that elevated to locally significant heat threat potentially lingering into Monday before things start to cool down a little bit into Tuesday. So looking at our actual forecast for the highs and the heat indices, going from left to right, today through Sunday, you can see that the next 3 days really, highs around 100, even locally 101, 102 across the area over the next few days. And on top of that, our heat indices of 110 to 115 out there for today and tomorrow. And then once again, we're just going to have to wait and see a little bit for Sunday. But either way, it looks like we're going to see probably 105 or higher heat indices on Sunday as well. And I will mention that when it comes to heat, it's a compounded effect. So having these multiple days in a row of very hot and humid conditions with very little relief at night, with lows in urban areas and along the coast, especially around the Chesapeake Bay, only struggling to get below 80 degrees at night, such as tonight, that really does compound the stress on your bodies when you're outside, and that does tend to increase the heat-related illnesses as we head into the weekend. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but just quick overview again. It's going to be very hot over the next several days. And as I already mentioned, the warm overnight temperatures are not going to provide very much cooling relief. You can see the heat indices, even overnight, still remaining above 80 degrees tonight, everywhere of what it's going to feel like. And similar situation, maybe a touch lower Saturday night. If we do get convection, it will probably get into the 70s instead of 80s, but either way, still pretty warm out there, even at night. And then looking at the wet bulb globe temperatures, as you would expect, with not very strong winds, pretty light winds out there, and these very hot conditions with minimal cloud cover at all, we are expecting the wet bulb globe temperatures of around 90, even 91 in spots today and tomorrow, which that is in our purple category, kind of like the extreme levels, where you're really needing to take a lot of breaks if you're even considering working outside. So just keep that in mind, that we are under a significant to extreme threat for the wet bulb globe temperatures. And then again, even into Sunday, you're still talking about that significant category of around 88 to 89, maybe 90 in spots. So it's just going to be very hot and very humid over the next several days. As far as chance of rain today, again, it's really just the Piedmont that we're semi-concerned about. And it's low confidence right now. We have pretty much everybody less than 15% or less chance for storms later this afternoon. Tomorrow, don't look too much at this exact QPFs, or QPF really just stands for how much rainfall totals you're going to get. But don't focus on those numbers too much, because whenever it comes to thunderstorms, it's really hit or miss. And models, when you average them out, they end up being too low than what's actually realized. So if you do get a heavier storm over your area, given that it's probably not going to be moving very fast on Saturday, you could absolutely see some locally heavy rainfall totals of over an inch of rain. And because of that, we do have a marginal risk for excessive rainfall across at least northern portions of the area on Saturday. But realistically, this type of setup, locally heavy rainfall will be possible with any storms, as well as frequent lightning. So you can see the timing, though, is that now it's pushed a little bit earlier, maybe even by 2 or 3 p.m. when things start. But the best chance is still going to be that really late afternoon period into the early evening hours for Saturday area-wide. And you can also see that our chance of thunder is pretty similar to our chance of rain, just kind of indicative of the fact that we're expecting more so thunderstorms than just showers for Saturday. And then looking ahead at Sunday, again, we still have some pretty decent chances for thunderstorms out there across the area, with the highest confidence further to the north, where you have that slight risk of severe weather still in place for Sunday. Sunday timing, similar to Saturday, maybe a touch later, mainly the late afternoon into the early evening hours. And then you factor all this in together over the next week or so, we could see locally rainfall totals above an inch, but generally speaking, most locations should get over a quarter of an inch. But again, when it comes to thunderstorms, it's really variable with how much any one location will get. And it could vary quite a bit from the next door neighbor or the county next door. And then just a quick overview of what we're looking at for the weather ahead. Again, very hot through Sunday, and then conditions start to cool down, relatively speaking, to near normal by early to mid next week. And then it does remain unsettled through at least the middle of next week. As you can see on the far right here, there's a chance of showers and storms that continue throughout from now, essentially through the middle of next week. And then when it comes to rip currents, low threats everywhere. And looking ahead to the end of next week, we're looking at still maybe near normal to slightly above normal temperatures, and then above normal precipitation chances out there. And I'm going to throw in this few marine slides here. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, because the general story here with the marine side of things is that it's going to be quiet over the next several days. Our threat for any marine hazardous conditions out there regarding winds or waves, seas, it's all pretty low, just limited in a few spots. And the overview over the next 72 hours is your maximum wind gusts are around 15 to 20 knots across the bay and the coastal waters, even lower in the rivers, with sub-small craft conditions expected to continue over the next several days through the holiday weekend and into early next week. And I'll just show this one last overview here. But that is all that I have on the weather side, except for I will mention one more thing, which is that given this heat and humidity in place, we have seen some hazy skies out there. Nothing that's particularly hazardous right now, but we do have a little bit of a limited. Let me read the exact phrasing for you. One moment. Right now, we are under threat level yellow for the air quality alert, which is moderate and means people unusually sensitive to air pollution may be mildly affected. So just throw that out there. That's still something we're monitoring as well. All right, I am happy to take any questions now.